Beasley, Boston. Hosted by George Knight. Public affairs programming on Beasley Media Group stations in Boston.
Kids can end up in foster care for a variety of reasons. A lot of times it's that their parents just aren't able to give them the care that they need. Thankfully, there are organizations who step in to help support those children and their families, and one of the organizations working hard at that is Plummer Youth Promise, a nonprofit that has been doing it for nearly 170 years, working to improve outcomes for young people in state care or at risk of entering state care. And they do that by engaging with kids and families and the systems that impact them in the hopes of developing permanent family relationships and skills and community connections as well. To tell us more about the organization and its programs and services, I'm joined by Nicole McLaughlin, who is Executive Director of Plummer Youth Promise. Nicole, thank you so much for coming on. I appreciate it.
Thank you very much for having me. I'm really happy to be here.
Well, we're going to learn about what you do, starting with, if you don't mind, a little history of Plummer Youth Promise. 170 years is a long time. Can you talk about how it got started back in the day?
Sure. You're right. It is a long time. And it got started in a way I think that a lot of charities get started, or a lot of charities did get started way back in the 1800s, and that was through a bequest in somebody's will. So a woman named Caroline Plummer left a bequest in 1855 for the creation of a reform school. And right from the start, so that money sat there for about 12 years until it was enough to build a building, and then a building was built. And right from the start, even though she had framed it as a reform school, it really served a variety of kids. So it served as an orphanage. It served as a support for families who might really need help raising their kids, generally for reasons of poverty at that time. And it served as a place where courts could send kids who were getting into trouble. So today we still serve children and youth, but our services, of course, have evolved. They don't look like what they did. 70 years, sure, yep. That's right. But here we are. We are still serving children and youth, both in the building that was originally built, but also in a variety of other ways.
Can you give kind of a general overlook of the different approaches that you take?
Sure. So, as we said, we serve young people in the foster care system, and we serve children and youth between the ages of birth and age 22, and we serve them in a wide variety of settings. So we have a group home in Salem, Massachusetts. We have foster families throughout Essex and Middlesex County. We have older youth between the ages of 18 and 22 who have aged out of the foster care system, and they're in studios or one-bedroom apartments, and we're still supporting them as they transition into adulthood. And we have a program called Permanency Mediation.
I wondered if you could explain a little bit about what goes on with that.
Sure. Well, let me back up just a little bit and tell you a model that we use in all of our programs, including the mediation program. Right? So our primary purpose at the end of the day is to make sure that children don't grow up in the foster care system, right? Because the foster care system is intended to be temporary, not permanent. Right. And so every day what we are trying to do is build family relationships, permanent family relationships. And we do that in a very specific way by looking for family far and wide, right? So not just locally, not necessarily people who are already known, but looking for family far and wide, defining family very broadly, right, to include grandparents and aunts and uncles and teachers and coaches, anyone who might really be able to care for a young person and center that young person's needs. So then we try to build a team around a young person, right, bring everybody together with that child's needs at the centers of the conversation, and try to figure out, well, what's going to be the future for this young person? Right? How are we going to get them out of the foster care system and into a permanent situation? And that permanent situation may be back with birth family, it may be with extended family, in some cases it's an adoption, but the idea is to look for a solution. So permanency mediation, what that does is it brings people together. It's a short-term intervention, and it brings people together who may not want to talk to each other, but they all care about this young person, right? And what happens in the foster care system is that things can really get caught up in the court system, especially when people aren't talking to one another.
Yeah.
and things can take a long time. And pretty soon, a young person has been in foster care for 3 years or 4 years. Mediation is designed to really shortcut that process, bring people together, and come up with a plan. And on average, when we get permanency mediators involved, so permanency there being a term of art for permanent families, when we get mediators involved, it's a voluntary process where people agree to come up around the table. And it takes us about 5 months to have people reach an agreement.
Right.
Where everyone has decided this is what's best for this young person.
It is not an easy task. I mean, you have different people, like you said, people who might not necessarily interact outside of this situation they've been brought into. So it's my hat is off to you guys for facilitating that.
We have a remarkable team. A remarkable team, and they're highly trained mediators, right? They understand trauma, they understand family dynamics, they understand how to build trust. And again, it's a voluntary process. It's not a court-ordered process.
Right.
And when adults come to the table in a voluntary process, you're much more likely to reach a solution.
We're speaking with Nicole McLaughlin, who is Executive Director of Plummer Youth Promise. I want to ask you about the residential program, what you do at the residential program.
Sure. So the residential program, this is what's commonly referred to as group care or congregate care in the foster care world.
Yep.
And so in this building, which was built in 1867, we have 18 young people between the ages of 13 and 22. And again, this is a subset of the foster care system, and our goal is to make sure they leave the foster care system with a family that they know they're going to be able to count on forever.
Right.
So they come to us, they live here, they attend public schools, and we apply our very specific interventions to try to drive young people toward families. So the building that we're in was built in 1867. We'll just tell you it's overcrowded, it's falling apart. It really gets in the way of our mission, right? Because our values would compel us to be in a building that was trauma-informed, right? That recognized that the young people that we're working with have experienced trauma.
Right.
That the families who are coming here to visit them have experienced trauma. And that in order to overcome those things, you actually need private spaces.
Makes sense, yeah.
Right? Spaces to heal, spaces to have private conversations where nobody else can overhear you.
Right.
Spaces where you don't have administrative staff walking past your private space. The building that we're in now doesn't allow for any of that. And so it actually holds us back in the delivery of our mission. And honestly, we just have to find a way to change that. And we're doing that.
Let's go a little bit further with that, if you don't mind. What are some of the next steps for rebuilding it and starting anew, and what can the public do to help you?
Sure. Well, so we are in the middle of a big construction project, biggest construction project since 1867.
Wow.
Only construction project since 1867. And we are, we did a study, right? And we talked with the kids who live here now about what it is that they need from the space around them, to feel physically and psychologically safe, to make progress in their own healing. We talked to the staff who work with them directly, and as a result came up with a building design that will do all of those things that I talked about, right? So each young person will have their own bedroom. There won't be an executive director walking through their living room at any given moment. There'll be,
even if that executive director is a very friendly person, but
That's right. Even if no matter how much that executive director cares, the executive director doesn't belong in your living room. So there'll be space for families to come and spend time with their young person, and without being surrounded by 17 other young people. So all of those things will exist in a new building that we've designed. We're in the middle of constructing right now. And then once that building is complete and young people and social workers who work with those young people move into that building, we will start renovating the current building that we're in, the historic building.
Yep.
And that will become space for all of our administrative functions, and it will have an overnight family visiting apartment.
Oh.
So to me, it's very exciting, both to be able to build a new building that actually offers our young people and families some dignity and some privacy, things that are just lacking in our current building. And then also to create overnight family visiting space. Again, just thinking about what do we have at our disposal that we can use to advance our mission of getting kids to family.
Yep.
So that's been sort of central to all of our thinking in that design process. And then the other thing we have happening is we're on a big plot of land in Salem.
Yep.
And we need to steward that land. Right? Land is important to all of us. It's actually, we're on the coast, and that adds to our sort of therapeutic environment for our young people, but we need to steward that land. And so we have created a large geothermal heating and cooling system that will be powered by solar, and that will take care of both of those buildings, and then ultimately, I hope, another one or two buildings.
Wow. We're speaking with Nicole McLaughlin, who's Executive Director of Plummer Youth Promise. You have some exciting stuff going on, to put it mildly. I do want to give people a way to find out more about getting involved, maybe find out about volunteering, helping you with the big projects that you have going on. So is the website the best place to direct people to, do you think?
Website is the best place to direct people. A really sort of timely way for people to come involved if they want to is we're entering the holiday season, and we have a pretty massive gift drive that we do. Yep. So there'll be information about that on the website. And of course, there's information about the construction project, both sort of what I would call the therapeutic elements of it, and then also the environmental elements of it. So if people are curious, they can learn that on the website as well.
Great. It is very easy. PlummerYouthPromise.org. Plummer, Plummer, youthpromise.org. And on there, you'll find information about what goes on and ways to get involved. And I invite you to do that. PlummerYouthPromise.org. Nicole McLaughlin is Executive Director of Plummer Youth Promise. Nicole, thank you so much for what you do, all the wonderful things, the exciting stuff you have going on. And I'm really grateful that you took the time to come on and help us learn more about it. It's been really nice speaking with you.
Thank you very much.